Chapter 6. Matt adjusted his grip on the steering wheel of his truck as they pulled away from the Merrick mansion. The afternoon sun glinted off the windshield, forcing him to flip down the visor. Next to him, Detective Joe Foster stared out the window, his expression unreadable. "So what do we know about McKnight?" Matt asked. Joe shifted in his seat and his fingers sprang to life on a tablet issued to him by the police department. After a moment, he said, "Here it is. Reed McKnight, self-employed handyman, does remodeling work around town. Got a reputation for quality work, but also for having a bit of a temper. Criminal history." They turned onto Oak Ridge Drive, leaving behind the sprawling estates of the Merrick neighborhood. The houses here were closer together, modest 2 stories with small front yards and family sedans in the driveways. "Oh yeah," Joe nodded. "Started with petty theft in his 20s, graduated to burglary, broke into a couple of vacation homes out by the lake. Then there's a string of drug charges." Matt raised an eyebrow. "Violent offenses?" "I remember those. I worked both of them. 2 assaults that I recall," Joe said, rubbing his chin. "One bar fight about 15 years ago. Put a guy in the hospital with a broken jaw. Got 18 months for that one. And the second? 5 years back. Dispute with a contractor. McKnight thought the guy shorted him on a remodeling job, confronted him in the parking lot of a hardware store, and hit him with a 2x4, broke the guy's arm." They drove in silence for a moment. Matt's mind wandered to the Merrick boy. "You think he could have killed the Merrick kid?" Matt asked finally. Joe shrugged beside him. "Everyone's capable of murder under the right circumstances. But from theft, drugs, couple of assaults, it's a big jump from that to killing a teenager." Matt slowed the truck as they approached a neat ranch-style home. "This is it," Joe said. Matt pulled to the curb and cut the engine. "Let's see what Mr. McKnight has to say for himself." The McKnight house stood in stark contrast to the Merrick mansion they'd just left. A modest ranch-style home with faded yellow siding and a small covered porch, it sat at the end of a narrow concrete driveway. What caught Matt's attention, however, was the lawn, immaculate in emerald green despite the brutal Texas heat that had turned most yards to straw. Reed McKnight was on his knees at the edge of the lawn, spreading some kind of granular substance from a handheld spreader. He looked up as they approached, his face immediately hardening when he spotted Joe in his department polo. McKnight rose to his feet, brushing off his knees. "What do the cops want?" he called out, not bothering to mask the hostility in his voice. "It's hot out here," Joe said, gesturing to the sun beating down on them. "May we come in?" "Fuck no," Reed said, and spat on the ground beside him. He stood with his legs planted wide, arms crossed over his chest. He had longish brown hair that curled at his neck and a Fu Manchu mustache that framed his mouth in a perpetual scowl. His arms were muscled and tanned from outdoor work, but a potbelly pushed against his sweat-stained t-shirt. Evidence of too many beers. Matt stepped forward. "Where were you yesterday, Mr. McKnight?" Reed's eyes narrowed as they shifted to Matt. "Never seen you around before." "Special Agent Matt Berry, Texas Bureau of Investigation," Matt said, holding up his badge. "Now answer my questions, or I'll put the cuffs on and drag your ass in." Joe raised an eyebrow at Matt's approach, but stayed silent. Reed stared at the badge, then at Matt, weighing his options. The hostility in his eyes didn't diminish, but something like calculation crept in. Finally, he set down the spreader. "Come on in," he said, turning toward the house. As they followed him up the walkway, Matt nodded toward the lawn. "You keep it in great shape." McKnight glanced back. "Got that from my dad." He opened the front door and motioned. "After you, gentlemen," he said with an exaggerated politeness that did nothing to mask his contempt. "Let's get this over with." Matt and Joe followed Reed into the house. The interior surprised Matt. Given the man's appearance and the hostility he displayed outside, Matt had expected disarray. Instead, the place was spotless. Hardwood floors gleamed, furniture arranged with care, and not a speck of dust visible on any surface. "Where's your wife?" Matt asked, noting the feminine touches throughout the room. "Kay? She's a cashier down at the Goodwill. She's at her job." Once inside, Reed dropped into a worn-out lazy-boy recliner, slouching with deliberate casualness. His posture communicated everything his words didn't. Contempt, suspicion, a man bracing for battle. "I know you're not here to tell me you arrested those rich bastards for what they did to Penny," he said. "So what are you here for?" Matt slipped his camera on and pressed record. "Mr. McKnight, would you state your full name for the record?" "Reed Thomas McKnight." "Where were you yesterday?" Matt asked again. "I do handyman work. I'm working on a house off Custer." "From when to when?" "Pretty much all day." "I need exact times," Matt said. Reed shrugged. 8 to 5. "You have witnesses?" "Bunch of cats." McKnight let out a humorless laugh. "The owner lets me in, goes to work, and I leave when she gets home. Are you going to tell me what this is all about?" "What about yesterday?" "I just told you, that was my day." "What's the homeowner's name?" Joe asked, pen poised over his notepad. "Linda Mercer, up in Willow Creek Estates." McKnight's eyes narrowed. "Why? You think I'm lying?" "Just being thorough," Joe replied. "What kind of work are you doing there?" "Bathroom remodel, ripping out tile, installing a new shower. The works." "Did you leave the job site at any point?" Matt asked. "For lunch, supplies, anything?" "Made a run to Home Depot around noon. Needed grout." McKnight shifted in his chair. "You can check their cameras if you don't believe me." "Which Home Depot?" "The one on Central." "What time did you finish work yesterday?" Matt continued. "Around 5. Came home, had dinner with Kay." "What time did you go to bed?" "Early, maybe 10. Did you leave the house at all after getting home from work?" McKnight's jaw tightened. "Number, why would I?" "What kind of vehicle do you drive, Mr. McKnight?" Matt asked. "Chevy Silverado. Dark blue, 2018. Anyone else drive it?" "Number, it's mine." Matt exchanged a quick glance with Joe before continuing. "Do you know Raymond Merrick personally?" McKnight's face darkened. "I know who he is." "Have you ever spoken with him? Had any contact with him recently?" "No." The word came out clipped and hard. "Have you ever confronted Raymond or any of the other boys involved in your daughter's case?" McKnight's knuckles whitened as he gripped the armrests of his chair. "I wanted to. Kay wouldn't let me. Said it would make things worse for Penny." "Did you ever talk to their parents?" Joe asked. "I tried calling Cal Merrick once. His secretary said he was unavailable. Never called back." The bitterness in his voice was palpable. "That's how it goes in this town. People like us don't matter to people like them." Matt paused, studying McKnight's face. "Raymond Merrick has been murdered." An accused's reaction to news of a murder, especially if the murder victim is close to the accused, is often evidence at trial. Detectives and prosecutors often use the reaction to news of a crime as circumstantial evidence of guilt. She showed no emotion when told of her husband's murder. She showed too much emotion when she learned her husband was shot. She asked no questions about the killing. She asked too many questions about the killing. She wanted to see the body. She didn't want to see the body. She didn't cry. And she cried too much. Gauging reaction was helpful, but it was also an area ripe for abuse in the hands of an unscrupulous detective or prosecutor intent on pinning a crime on an accused. McKnight's response, given the circumstances, seemed honest. Matt expected a denial. Instead, Reed said, "Good. He deserved it for what he did to Penny." The room went silent. "That's a pretty strong statement," Joe said. Reed didn't flinch. "It's how I feel. What, am I supposed to cry for the bastard who raped my daughter?" Matt leaned forward. "Mr. McKnight, did you kill Raymond Merrick?" The bluntness of the question hung in the air between them. Reed McKnight stared back, his eyes hard. "Number, but I'm not sorry someone did." "Would you be willing to provide a DNA sample?" Matt asked. "To eliminate you as a suspect?" "You need a warrant for that," McKnight replied. "It would be voluntary," Joe said. "Help clear things up faster." McKnight considered this, then shrugged. "Fine. Take whatever you need. I didn't kill that boy." Matt produced a DNA collection kit from his jacket pocket. "Open your mouth, please." As Matt swabbed the inside of McKnight's cheek, Joe continued, "Do you own any firearms, Mr. McKnight?" Number, my wife owns a shotgun and a .38 revolver, both registered. Mind if we take a look? Joe asked. They're in the bedroom closet. Kay keeps them locked up. I'll get the key. When McKnight left the room, Joe leaned toward Matt. What do you think? Matt shook his head. I'm not feeling it. McKnight returned with a small key. This way. They followed him to the bedroom, where he opened a gun safe mounted on the closet's top shelf. Inside were a shotgun and a revolver, both clean and well-maintained. When's the last time you fired either of these? Joe asked, examining both weapons. Never. Neither weapon showed signs of recent use. One more question, Matt said as they returned to the living room. Do you know anyone who might have wanted to harm Raymond? Anyone besides yourself who had issues with him? McKnight snorted. Half the town, probably. Ask around his school. That kid made enemies. Any names come to mind? Number. But I'm not exactly in his social circle. McKnight paused. They grilled Reed for another 20 minutes. As they neared the end, a girl quietly entered through the front door. She stopped and stared at the two detectives. This is Penny, McKnight said. Penny said nothing. I'll finish with Mr. McKnight. Why don't you talk to Penny? Joe suggested. Every muscle in Matt's body froze. It was her. Ivy, the woman from his house, the escort Sarah had sent, the one he hadn't been able to stop thinking about since that night. She wore faded jeans and a plain gray t-shirt, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup today, where before there had been subtle touches highlighting her features, but there was no mistaking those eyes. Dark, intelligent, observant. Matt felt his throat constrict. He managed to keep his expression neutral through sheer force of will, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Penny stopped in the doorway, her eyes moving from her father to Joe, then landing on Matt. For a split second, something flashed across her face. Recognition, surprise, before her features settled into a composed neutrality. Penny, these men are investigating the Merrick boys' murder, Reed said, gesturing toward them. Detective Foster and Special Agent Barry. Matt stood, unable to find his voice. Joe stepped into the gap. Ms. McKnight, I'm Detective Foster with Vista Ridge PD. This is Special Agent Barry with the Texas Bureau of Investigation. Penny nodded, her composure remarkable. She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear, the same gesture she'd made that night, and Matt felt a jolt of déjà vu. Matt cleared his throat. Yes, we'd like to ask you a few questions. Their eyes met, and in that brief moment, a silent understanding passed between them. An acknowledgement of their previous encounter and a mutual decision to keep it private. Of course, she said. Would you like some water? It's hot out. That would be great, Joe replied. Penny turned toward the kitchen. I'll get it. Agent Barry, would you mind giving me a hand? Matt nodded, acutely aware of Reed's suspicious gaze following them as he trailed Penny into the kitchen. The moment they were around the corner, she turned to face him, leaning casually against the counter. Small world, she said quietly, reaching for glasses in an upper cabinet. Matt watched her, still processing the coincidence. Very small. She filled the glasses with water. My father doesn't know about my evening job. I'd appreciate if it stayed that way. That's not why I'm here, Matt said, finding his voice. You've come to ask me on another date, she suggested. Matt glanced over his shoulder, worried that Joe or McKnight may have overheard. Relax, Penny said. We should talk, Matt said. We will. She picked up the remaining glasses. We'll talk in the kitchen. Let's deliver the water first. Matt nodded. Lead the way. Penny moved past him, back toward the living room with the same casual confidence she'd shown in his house days before. Matt followed, his mind racing. This case had just complicated exponentially.